back. Whatever you're watching this, I appreciate y'all. This is the Akintunde show, special Akintunde show. Of course, we usually run the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but tonight this is a special show, and I'm excited about it. I think it's a worthy conversation that we're gonna have. I just told folks on the other broadcast that just ended that we were going live with a special show tonight. Man, as we all know, there's been a lot of police shootings, a lot of killings of unarmed African Americans, and I know, like y'all, all of us are tired of it on some level. And I think this is a great opportunity to have a needed conversation. What's up, Tanya Ward? Good evening from New Jersey. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Jay Jones, what's up, Jay? How you doing, sir? Come on in, family. I appreciate y'all. Please like, tag, and share this. This is going to be an important conversation. I have a great friend of mine, a man of God who has not just a powerful anointing in the pulpit, but he also has a phenomenal background. I mean, that is so relevant right now. Garcia L. Hyman, how you doing? We're not live on YouTube on this one right here. We're starting our YouTube channel. We're literally revamping our YouTube channel right now. So thanks for asking. You were confirming something. You're probably gonna get me in trouble with my wife because she told me the other day. She said you need to revamp your YouTube channel to go along with the wonderful success that we've been having here on Facebook. So that is coming. So great question, Garcia. And as soon as we do go, I surely will make sure that you are up and ready and know we are now back on YouTube. I'm on YouTube now. My jokes are there, but this show and our live streams are not on YouTube, but we're working on that. Amen, sir. Again, please make sure that y'all will like, tag, and share this post right here. Please do so. I think this is one that definitely the conversation needs to be had. This is some great information. When I tell you it's a rare occasion that as African Americans and as Christians, we get what I call inside information. We get the perspective of a police officer. This man that I'm about to introduce to y'all in just a little bit is not only, again, he wasn't just a police officer, but he was a deputy police chief. Okay, that carries a whole other level of weight, and that's a whole other level of understanding. Pastor Lewis Tucker, my good friend from Lynchburg, Virginia, one of my best friends in the world. How you doing, sir? Come on in, sir. He's getting ready for his this weekend, his pastoral celebration, his annual pastoral celebration that's coming up this weekend in Lynchburg, Virginia. If you know about my church in Lynchburg, Virginia, go and check out Pastor Lewis Tucker, Pastor Stephanie Tucker, and the whole My Church family. Garcia, thanks for sharing, sir. Please, everybody who's on here, like, tag, and share this post. Please, if you're just tuning in, if you're already in, make sure you tell me where you're watching from. Make sure you tell me the city where you are watching from. Let me tell you this real quick. So thank y'all for just the explosion of support that we've been having on Clap TV. Again, I said this the other night, but we got numbers back, and it literally, can I be transparent with y'all? We have not spent a dime on advertising yet, because we still are working out kinks and kind of ironing out, if you allow me to say, a lot of the pieces to the platform. It's great. It's ready to go. There are movies and television content up there right now if you log on to Clap TV. That said, we haven't spent any advertising, and there has literally been already thousands of people who've already downloaded the Clap TV app, and we appreciate that. I thank you. I give God all the glory. I take none of it for myself, but I'm truly excited. And that tells me the traction that we have is an indication of the need that we have for urban Christian quality content for our families that reflect us. When I say urban, I'm talking about Black. Okay. So urban Christian content. I could talk about that forever. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But again, just the other night, Florence, South Carolina, I see you, Garcia. Just the other night, we for Labor Day weekend, Sunday, we had Labor Day Laughs. We Got the Jokes is our comedy show, and it was a special Labor Day Laughs edition. It was sponsored by Right Direction Church International, which is the church that I've been a member for 18 years, almost 18 years. And our church sponsored a night of laughter. My Bishop Herbert Bailey, and his lovely wife, our co-pastor, they wanted to have a night of laughter. They just wanted people to relax, have a good time. Because truth be told, with this whole pandemic stuff is different. We still figuring out when we come back to church. I know our church just started opening up and let small groups come in, socially distant, and enjoy the service. But for the most part, most people across the country are still going to church largely online, which has opened up some new doors and some new opportunities to reach people. But that said, they just want to have a night of laughter, and they did so, and we had a great time. And before I bring up Pastor Weathersby, I'm gonna play just a quick little clip of a brother who did his thing on this past Sunday night on that We Got the Jokes Labor Day Laughs edition. This is my brother Mark Gregory with a hilarious joke, which every time I hear it cracks me up. And just check it out right now, y'all.
Appreciate it. What's up, tall people? Can I start my show without giving God some praise to put your hands together for him? I love starting my show like that because God been real good to me. I'm gonna start with my testimony. After all these long years, y'all, I finally moved out my mother's house. Thank you. 'Cause I'm looking for a wife. And God made me realize a real woman is not gonna respect me as long as I'm still living at home. So now I live with my daddy, right? One step at a time. Now I'm gonna tell the truth, man. It is tough trying to find somebody when you're short. Women treat me like I'm a little baby or something. This one girl had the nerve to pick me up and took me outside to show her friends. And it was cold outside. She's gonna put a little blanket over my head so I'm gonna catch a cold, right? And I wanted to go off, but I fell asleep. Tell you, man, it's tough being me. They don't even treat me like an adult at church. I'm the only grown man that's still in the children's choir. Tell me that's the only role that'll fit me. But I approve it's tough trying to date when you're short. Ladies, if you like short men, clap your hands. About 5 women. Even the short women ain't clapping. But even though I'm short, I love tall women. I used to date this one girl that was super tall. I'm talking about 5'5". And she was a big girl too. She weighed about 400. But we did romantic stuff all the time. Like one time she wanted to go to Six Flags. So we decided to get matching outfits. She had stuff like, y'all got that outfit in the 3X? I'm like, y'all got that same outfit in the 3T?
That's my man, Mark Gregory, y'all. We Got the Jokes Labor Day Laughs. That was just past Sunday night. Great time, phenomenal time. And it was, again, sponsored by our church, Right Direction Church International. And just, it was amazing for us to be able to use comedy to reach so many people. Thousands upon thousands of people watched that comedy show live. And I loved it because so many people stayed on throughout the whole show, and it really blessed us. So with that out of the way, I'm about to bring up this man of God right now. Again, many years ago, I had the awesome opportunity to go to Slidell, Louisiana. And is my screen out? Something's going on with my screen, y'all. Let me see something here. I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I'm going to keep on talking till it come back in. Let's check it real quick, make sure everything's good. Y'all, if y'all can still hear me, somebody hits, give me some thumbs up if y'all can still hear me. Let me know if y'all can still hear me. Technology is awesome when it's working. Okay. I'm Akintunde, and that used to be me all the time until I found Stop Cuss.
From the makers of Stop Sin, Stop Cuss. Just 2 pills taken once daily to prevent frequent outbursts of curse. Stop Cuss is safe for ages 12 and up. Children under 12 who curse should have their behind spanked.
Did you slip and cuss at work? Did you cuss in a meeting at church?
Side effects include headaches, diarrhea, gum bleeding, and voting for Donald Trump.
Save your children from years of therapy with Stop Cuss.
Stop Cuss is not a cure and is not meant to replace the Holy Spirit.
Take control of your cussing today with Stop Cuss.
In a small study, 3 people died after taking Stop Cuss, and we don't know why. Also available as a liquid and as a patch. Ask your doctor or your pastor if Stop Cuss is right for you.
If a picture's worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1,000,000. With COVID-19 attacking the economy and the job market, many Americans are becoming full-time entrepreneurs. Others are taking their side hustle to the next level. And if you're serious about marketing your brand, you need high-quality digital media elements.
And now, capture the media elements you need in one day with Pro Media Day. Tell them what they'll receive.
Photos, HD 4K videos, and custom logo design. You'll receive 4 retouched high-res photos, a fully edited 60-second video promo, a custom design logo, and an HD video version of your newly designed logo. All for just $375. Just $375.
But wait, for a limited time only. Take advantage of a special $50 early bird discount, bringing your total price to $325. Bringing your total price to $325. Book your professional pro media session today with only a 50% deposit. Log on to WFMediaGroupInc.com and click the Pro Media link, WFMediaGroupInc.com. Capture the professional media elements you need in one day with Pro Media Day. What's up, family? I don't know what happened. But that just proves to me that this is about to be a phenomenal conversation that we're about to have, and I'm about to jump right in with no further delay. He is the pastor of Living the Word International in Slidell, Louisiana. He pastors the church along with his lovely wife, Chiquita, and they have a thriving ministry and just a growing ministry and a loving ministry. I've had the pleasure of being there on several occasions, and I want to give God some praise right now and welcome him to this show before anything else happens. Pastor Lawrence, how you doing, sir?
Man, I am wonderful. I am awesome. I'm honored to be here with you, my friend. It's good.
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir. How you been?
Man, I've been well, man. God has been good to us, man. Staying safe, Everybody asks me, how you doing with COVID-19? I said, I didn't get 19, but I got about 22 at the table.
Hilarious. Well, sir, you always been funny. You always been loving and kind. I always talk about anytime I come back from Slidell, how y'all feed a brother down there. Oh, it's some good eating going on down there in Slidell, Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. Y'all got that good. Is that like, what's that, like that French mix with the whole low country Creole, all of that? What is that?
All of it mixed together is very good. I tell you that much, man. It's good. It's a little French, a little Creole, a little soul. It all goes together, man. We create stuff. We create stuff down here, man.
I've always enjoyed myself, and me and you talk from time to time, and I give you all the backstory how this conversation even wound up coming to you guys. Again, like I said, please like, tag, and share this video. Let your friends know that we're having a conversation I believe that needs to be had. I was talking with you the other day, and we were talking about police, the issues that often go on with police officers, and it's amazing because, of course, I know that you are a retired police officer, but what I forget sometimes is that just to the level that you went before you retired. And I kind of want to get into your background on some level before we get into the actual topics and questions. Please feel free to ask questions. I would love to hear y'all comments, y'all thoughts. Again, let folks know that we're having a conversation that needs to be had. But you, sir, are a retired deputy police chief. And did I read it right? Was it 38 years of service or 28 years?
28 years total.
28 years of service to your community as a police officer. So kind of going to that, just how did you get into policing and wind up becoming a police officer with the New Orleans PD?
Yes, sir. Actually, my first encounter with the police was a very positive encounter. I was about 8 years old. I grew up in a very, what they call the hood, man. All black neighbor community, but we had a lot of great people, but we had a lot of bad people in the same place. Mm-hmm. And about 8 years old, man, this kid, young kid, I called him a kid. He was a teenager. I was 8. He snatched my money from me. My mom called the police, and that was the first time in my life that I saw a black police officer. Mm. And when he came out, the way he handled that, and he cared for me, cared for my mom. At that moment, I knew I wanted to be a cop. Okay. At that moment. So, I just grew up, and when the time came, went to college, went to college, had scholarship, and still right on out of school because it wasn't my vision. I wanted to be a cop. Okay. I became a cop when I was 22. A cop when I was 22.
You started young.
Yes, sir. 22.
That's young. And I mean, how was it when you first, became an officer? Because you said that you were policing in your own community, which is different. We were talking, and you were saying that a lot of folks are policing in areas where they have no connection with the community. So what was the value for you actually being an officer in a community, in a city that you were quite familiar with?
Well, coming out of the academy, as I was telling you, you get 3 charges, and the 5th district is where I grew. You guys call them precincts, we call them districts. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in the 5th district, and growing up down there, I just saw the good people that were down there, but I also saw how the neighborhood was changing because of the influence of drugs and everything else. And I was like, I want to be a cop. If I'm going to patrol, I'm going back to my neighborhood where I can make a difference in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so, and so what would happen when you would have an altercation or situation and somebody you went to high school with, somebody you knew from the neighborhood?
Well, see, that was the value of going back because, one, I knew a lot of people. Of course, I didn't know everybody, but I knew a lot of people, and I treated them with respect, and they treated me with respect. And we just had it was a culture code. It was very simple. Hey, if you do something wrong, I have a job to do. If you're doing something right, you don't have a problem. We're going to be good. So I had some friends I had to put in the car. I had some friends that didn't want to get in the car, but nevertheless, when it's all said and done, I still have people that I've actually put in jail that are out of jail. When they see me, we still talk. I had a few come to the church, actually come sit in the service, people that I arrested and did time. Wow. Because I treated them with respect when I dealt with them.
Well, let's jump right into it. Of course, today we're dealing with, hyper policing, and, this is a totally unusual time that we're living in. I don't know if there is any precedent for what's going on. I mean, historical precedent, I should say, for what's going on. Whereas then you're seeing just the type of interactions as well as the these shooting of unarmed black men. And that's my first question for you. Do you think this are we seeing a multiplication of what's already been happening, or is this already been happening consistently in your opinion? And the only difference is we now have cameras everywhere, and people are much more sensitive to the plight of somewhat more sensitive to the plight of black people.
You've always had deadly force incidents, but not like now. I will be honest with you. As I was sharing with you, just for your viewers that are listening, just to give them an idea of who I am. I 25 years, I rose to the rank of deputy chief, but I was also in the district task force, which dealt with the most violent offenders in the district. I was on special forces. I was a SWAT team member as a patrolman. I was a lieutenant over public housing police, where my office was inside of public housing units in the Desire Florida projects. And then when I became captain, I went back to the district where I started and where I lived. And as a lieutenant, I was also commander of SWAT. I was the SWAT team commander. So I've always dealt with the most violent offenders in the city of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And never in my 25 years did I see what we're seeing now. Of course, we had incidents where bullets flew and
Mm-hmm.
things happened, but nothing like what I see now. Nothing.
Hey, I think, and I've said this with several people, on camera, off mic, on mic. I think one of the biggest situations that we're having is a collision between young black men who don't have a history and have a lot of experience with dealing with authority. When you don't have your mom in the house, your father in the house, and you grow up around, and oftentimes just your mother, and you don't have maybe the proper interaction with coaches, and just times are different. You don't have some of that strong male interaction that when somebody tell you do A, B, C, and D, you do it simply because of the position that they hold. Then you have, along with that, this collision, which in my opinion is a perfect storm of police officers who seem like they don't want to do nothing but shoot. Like, it's like, to be honest with you, it's scary policing to me. I think the biggest issue is you got a lot of scary cops that probably, I'm sure you probably it wasn't nothing for you to get into a scuffle with somebody, and you said something that was so key, please address that thought. But you said something that was so key about the steps, the way you are trained. This is what I really want to get to.
Sure.
The way you are trained to respond to someone who is non-compliant. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what nobody says. I always tell my wife this, I tell my sons this, and all my children. If somebody tells you to do something, listen to what they're saying, do comply. They are an officer. Mm-hmm. However, that said, the response that these officers have, the way they responded to someone like a Jacob Blake who was walking away from them, mm-hmm. It seems like to me, it's like, that was your go-to, and you kind of gave clarity on that, and I really want people to hear this.
Yes, sir. Well, before I get in there, let me put a disclaimer in place, because I don't want people to feel as though it's just coming from the police. Mm-hmm. If you were ever stopped unnecessarily, me too. Mm-hmm. If you ever stopped because you were black, mm-hmm. me too. Mm-hmm. If you were ever talked to crazy because you were black, me too. Mm-hmm. If you were ever called a racial name by a police officer, me too.
Right.
If you were ever falsely arrested and facing the years in prison, me too.
Wow.
And all of that happened while I was a cop.
Wow.
You see, so all of these things happened while I was a cop. So I let you know that the systemic racism that's on the inside of the department. Now, as I told you, I went through all that because I was in internal affairs investigating misconduct of police officers, where the commander said he didn't want any blacks, and I testified against him in a hearing. So when the first complaint came against me, he tried to put me away and tried to get me, and I was facing 20 years in prison. I was found not guilty, and from there I was promoted to captain, to major, to deputy chief.
Wow.
But the answer to your question is almost like you said, a perfect storm. It's a powder keg. And what you have is that you have officers that are on the department. And think about this. I've never had an incident where it was questioned. When I was the commander of the 5th district, one of the most violent districts in the city, I had 5 incidents where my officers had to use deadly force and they actually killed people. 5 incidents.
5.
And never had one protest.
Wow.
Never, because we know how to deal with our community. Mm-hmm. And you have officers who are coming on the department. You see, not only did I know my community, I grew up in that community. Mm-hmm. And most of the people that came down and worked in that district, they understood that community. Mm-hmm. But now nationwide, we have officers that are coming on the police department, not because of a desire that they want to be a police officer. Some of them are doing it. They're coming through the generational tree. Dad was, grandma was, grandpa was. But you have engineers, you have lawyers, you have people that can't get a job in the field they went to school in, and now they run to the police department because crime does pay. Most police departments pay well, and you get the benefits and you have a career. So they're coming on. But if you're coming on a department where all your life, when you sat at the dinner table, you were taught to fear black people.
Mm-hmm.
You were taught to fear a black man.
Right. Right.
And now you're on the job. And when you deal with a black man, the first thing he does is become non-compliant. And all you heard is that they will hurt you, they will kill you, they will rob you, they will pillage you.
Right.
And that's the picture that's being presented on us. Then that's the mindset of some of these officers that are coming on the department. And I do want to say this, that when it's all said and done, I can really say this in my 25 years of working for both blacks and whites. 90 to 95% of those guys out there, those men and women out there that are serving,
mm-hmm.
they're trying to do the job right.
Okay.
They're trying to do the job right.
Okay.
And even some of those that have ended up in bad shootings or very questionable shootings,
mm-hmm.
some of those people weren't bad, but they were afraid.
Gotcha.
And that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Because, I tell people I'm uniquely qualified for this. Mm-hmm. I'm a pastor now for 17 years, so I have a heart for the people.
Mm-hmm. I
was on the police department for 25 years, and I've been black all my life. So I understand it. I know what it is to go through this.
And you said when you talking about the fear, and that's real. I think that's real. I mean, I'm sure even the toughest police officer, the most qualified police officer, who's not coming in from in any way from a position of weakness, fear. I mean, the impulse of fear when something happens is real. When somebody starts shooting, I mean, it's a legitimate emotion to fear your life. But I guess. And I mean, but I think that's something that people should recognize and be sensitive to when somebody goes to work as a police officer.
Well, see, you just said something, and that's the biggest difference that I'm trying to express. I grew up in the neighborhood. I grew up seeing these things. So you got to almost literally be crazy. You get a call, and it's just you and your partner to respond to a corner. And they tell you they got 5 guys out there with AK-47 shooting, and just you and your partner got 2 9mm. Whew. You got to be crazy if you're not scared.
Right.
All right. You're scared. But what it is, the difference is we were scared of the incident, not the color of the people.
Okay. Right. Right. And that was something that I was talking with someone about, a friend of mine who's actually on this feed, Pastor Tucker, that, people spent years watching this, the Hollywood depiction of an African-American male, hyper masculine, hyper aggressive, this thug depiction that they have. And that's all some white people know, particularly in some of these rural areas. That's all they see consistently on television, because that's the lie. And that's the story that they've been told, that all people, men of color, operate this way. And it does, I believe, it does insert fear, embeds fear that causes them, and many of these guys, I believe it's another thing. This is a theory of mine. I believe you grow up playing Call of Duty all day, and you grow up, shooting folks on video games. I think it devalues life. And when you get that gun in your hand, that 9mm in your hand, or whatever that Glock, whatever that tool is, I believe it causes you to respond in such a way, in many ways, a callous way, because you on some level have been desensitized to what a bullet does to the human body. And we've been desensitized to the fact that man that you're looking at, even though he's a black man, he's a human being. You may not understand him, know anything about him, but he's still a man. And God loves him the same way he loves you.
Hey man, let me say this too, man. Pastor Tucker, that's my boy, my friend, man. I saw him again. Love you, Pastor T. But here it is, man. There's another negative enforcer that only police officers know about, not the general public. Mm-hmm. And when you work in a predominantly, if you look at most of these things are happening in urban cities, right? And when you work in an urban city where it's predominantly African American people are living, and mm-hmm. those that you're dealing with in the criminal element, when you look at it, a lot of times, every day they go to roll call, they have to read out the previous day's crimes with the descriptions of those people. So when you go on a roll call 5 days a week, and you get in there and they tell you, okay, we had 5 armed robberies last night. Here's the description: black male wearing white t-shirt, black male dreadlocks. So they had 5 shootings last night, black male this. So they had 5 carjackings, black male. And the first call you go on, that's a suspicious person, they're fitting that description because that's the norm.
Wow.
So you don't know if you're dealing with the carjacker, the robber, or whatever, and that enhances that fear that was already in them before they even came on the department about black people.
Wow. Wow. And then they come into contact with somebody who is non-compliant. And that's before you even get to the whole racist element.
Yes.
Because what we talk about now is anybody who's watching, what we talk about now is the whole fear element, the whole element of fear for your life. But you said something so key to me the other day when you broke down the training, the way an officer is supposed to respond when somebody is non-compliant. There's steps that somebody is supposed to go to before they ever pull a gun out, much less shoot somebody. Could you please break that down for us?
Yes. First of all, every police officer, I don't care what city, what county, what state, or what level, they are taught the force continuum. And there are actually five levels of responses that they are taught to react to. The first response is compliant. If the person is compliant and following your orders, then you should not have to use force whatsoever. Then after that, you have it's called passive resistance. The passive resistance is pretty much the person that's kind of not really listening to you, or kind of, you say something, they kind of say something back to you, but they're not doing anything physically threatening to you. So those verbal, that talking or whatever, the officer does not have a right to use force in that case. Then you move from passive to what is called active resistance. Now, the active resistance is them pretty much not fighting you, but like if you tell them they're under arrest, like you've seen a lot of the peaceful protests where they're willing to go to jail, they're telling them to get out the street. What they'll do is they'll sit down or they'll go limp or whatever. That's called passive resistance.
Right.
In that case, they can lift the person up, they can put their hands on them, they can handcuff them or whatever. But then you step up to what is called active resistance.
Okay.
Now, active resistance is where they're talking back to you, or if you tell them you're under arrest and they don't swing on you, they don't try to hit you, but they pull their arm from you, or they want, why are you trying to handcuff me, whatever. That officer is now trained to use the force that is necessary to get that person handcuffed.
Wow.
And if it escalates, it goes up to what is now called aggressive resistance. Aggressive resistance is when the person is actually trying to fight the officer. Now, the first level of defense that an officer is trained to use is fist, hand, and feet. But you're not seeing that.
Right.
You're seeing a lot of officers going straight to their gun.
Right.
But every officer is taught to use their fist, hand, and feet before they go to that. And if the fist, hand, and feet don't work, then they can step it up to the taser. They can step it up to a baton if they have that, or AFS, or expandable baton. But deadly force is not justified in that moment. Deadly force does not come into play until it becomes what is called aggravated resistance, where now the actions of that person is putting that officer or another person's life in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury, or the person is using a weapon, that may cause death or injury. Then and only then is the officer really justified to go to that level of force.
So fist, hands, feet, and then you go to the baton, and then you go to something else. It's pepper spray or something else before you get to the point where you talk about even. So this all that's supposed to happen before you ever pull your weapon out.
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
It has to happen at the level of force the person is doing. Now, if a person goes straight to aggravated resistance, where it's putting your life in danger, then you can bypass all of those things. But every officer is trained with certain weapons, non-lethal weapons, and as well as that gun, to deal with those levels of resistance. If they're compliant, no weapons, no yelling, no nothing. Then you have passive, you have active, you have aggressive, then you have aggravated. And aggravated is the only one when your life is in imminent danger that an officer is justified to use deadly force. So
if a person gets pulled over, they feel they're upset. We're going to come back to that because you gave some good wisdom on that. And I really want people with this acronym CLAW. But before we go to that, you broke down, let's just say if somebody gets pulled over and that person is not non-compliant, they upset because they don't feel they should have been pulled over, or they don't like the way the officer is talking to them or something. and they're not being aggressive. They're not coming at the officer, but they're just being non-compliant. At that point, the officer is supposed to restrain that person with their hands and use and pretty much utilize nothing else because this person is not being aggressive.
Well, no, what they would try to do, that's a thing that they're taught in the police academy called verbal judo. They would try to de-escalate it by talking to the person or talking the person back down. That's what they tried to do. If that does not work, then now they're classifying, or they should be classifying, that measure of resistance. If this passive, is this active, or is this aggressive? And that all depends on what the person's doing. And what's happening now is that people are afraid to even get stopped. So when they get stopped, they're asking questions out of fear themselves. Right. The officers, some of them are afraid, and it's just a bad situation. So that's why we came up with this acronym called CLAW that we've been trying to speak it out to everybody now, and I hope your listeners really get it tonight. Mm-hmm. CLAW is very simple. The C, comply. The L, live through the situation. The A, appeal it at a later date. And the W, win it at a later date. We out there, people are out there telling about, I know my rights. Well, here it is. If you know your rights, then you know the officer you're dealing with is already violating your rights. So why do you want to have a conversation with that person who has no respect for your rights in the beginning? That is if a person is violating what you feel are your rights, that is the number one hint for you to de-escalate that situation. And it's upon you to de-escalate it, because if not, that officer may just be looking for a reason to step up the measure of force against you.
And the thing of it is you don't know that the person that gets pulled over, they don't know that. They can't make that immediate judgment call. So the safest thing for that person is to CLAW, which is, as you said, comply.
Comply, live through the incident, appeal it, and win it at a later date.
So if you feel like to any brother out there, to any sister out there, but let me talk to men for a minute. Let me just keep it real. Let me talk to men for a minute. Brothers, I understand how it feels like to be violated by police. I'd have been pulled over, particularly when I was a young comedian on the road. I used to get pulled over and they just check my license and tell me to go on about my business. Sometimes they take and run my license without even asking me, can they run my license? And just come back and say, have a nice day. Just go on about your business. And there were times when I said, why'd y'all stop me? Why'd you stop me? Oh, we were looking for this, or your car fit this description. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But truth be told, I was a young black man driving a nice car through a southern state. That's the facts. And I know what that feels like to be angry and frustrated about that. But at the end of the day, it's better for me to leave the situation and file a police report, which is what Pastor Weathersby is saying.
File a complaint.
A complaint.
Right.
And then appeal it and win that at a later date, as opposed to becoming somebody's new hot cell phone camera video. And I'm like, go ahead, sir.
I give you a perfect example. I didn't see it. My wife was telling me about it yesterday, about this guy. He was jogging, and he fit the description of someone who had just broken into a shed or whatever and stole a weed eater and a lawnmower. It's going viral now. I don't know if you heard about it.
No, I
Well, they stopped him because he fit the description. The description that came out over the radio: black male, white t-shirt, black shorts. He so happened to be wearing black shorts and white t-shirt in the area. But he knew he didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. So he totally complied with everything they asked him to do. He did. He did tell me, say, look, with everything going on, I hope you guys, I don't know how he said it, but he did it in such a way they let him do it that he videoed it. He videoed his stop.
Okay.
And because he complied, they were able to verify he was not the person, and learn in a conversation with him, learned that he was a military police officer. The sheriff offered him a job.
Wow.
Offered him a job.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that's what we have to do in this season, because we can't control the fear factor of an officer. We can't control if the officer's racist. We can't control if the officer's The officer just may have grown up abusing his life, so now he wants to abuse the power. There are many reasons why things are happening.
Right.
But what we can control is the level that he goes to or she goes to by we de-escalating the situation as much as we can, even if we don't like it.
Right.
You know, if I think you violated my rights, I think you mishandled me, then I'm going to live through this encounter. I'm not going to challenge you. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. Right. I will go down to the police station tomorrow, appeal my case, file my complaint against you, and hopefully I will have enough evidence to come in and to win my case later.
Right.
But and this is the reason why, and here's the reason why we're asking everybody to do this, because, and I'm only talking about the New Orleans Police Department. You may not have the officer found guilty in your case.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you got 10 people going down there within 30 days saying that this officer is doing that? Mm-hmm. Now there's a history of this officer on file in that department. Right. And in the New Orleans Police Department, we had a program called PEP, and it was called Professional Performance Enhancement Program. If you got 2 complaints of two resisting arrest complaints or use of force complaints, and there were 9 sustained within 1 year's time, and they were not justifiable, we couldn't prove it one way or another, you were sent back to the academy for 1 week of sensitivity training, diversity training, street survival training, and your overtime was stopped, and all of your extra detail work was stopped for that week. So it became a deterrent to many officers. Like, man, I'm not going to the PEP program.
Right.
So they learn how to control themselves. And now they have a thing called EPIC. It's called Ethical Policing in Communities, EPIC. That now it's the peer pressure system, that if they see an officer starting to go overboard, all the officers on the scene begin to shout the word EPIC to remind that officer you're going outside of your training to back that officer back down. That's what they're doing in New Orleans. Yeah.
Wow. So and I'm sure some folks may say, in many cases when an officer spoke out against another officer, there's a lady I saw on CNN, saw a story about her. She lost her pension because she spoke out when another officer roughed up someone that they were arresting. But you bring up a lot of points, and this I think is what you're talking about is operating with wisdom and living to appeal, walking away from the situation, knowing that you were treated unfairly, but being treated unfairly on the side of the road and leaving upset, ticked off, even dare I say even pissed off, as opposed to living or being hurt or even being arrested unnecessarily. All that and then what you're saying even is to take that next step and file a complaint, because what you're saying is, and I think a lot of people, it's helping me out, not knowing that complaint matters. That don't just go somewhere, because just be honest, and you know this, sir. A lot of people of color feel like a complaint from me don't mean nothing.
No, it means a lot, because every complaint is put on a file and put in that officer's file. And even if it is called, there are different ways to classify. Unfounded means that there was no merit to it whatsoever, that the person who filed the complaint just made it up. And then you have what is called non-sustained. Non-sustained means that you can't prove it one way or the other that the incident happened. So the officer is not clear, but the officer is not found guilty. Then you have which is called sustained, which means that there was the evidence to prove that the officer actually did what the complaint said. And then the last one is exonerated, that of all of the evidence came through, all of the steps that the officer took it was in line with training. You see, officers are not just investigated for the incident. What they investigate to determine if they're wrong with the incident is, did they do everything they were trained to do? Mm-hmm. And once they go outside of the training, then that opens the door for them to be found sustained, either for violation of training, policies and protocol, or at the worst case, indicted and arrested for a criminal offense.
Let's talk about systematic racism. But before I do that, I want to read a couple comments. Pastor Lewis Tucker says, say that. My mother-in-law, Elaine Mitchell, says she saw that video. And Melvin Wilson, what's up, brother? Said good conversation and info. Miguel Lloyd said Earl B. Lloyd. Okay. Miguel, you can tell us who that is. I guess that means something. Earl B. Lloyd, maybe I don't know if that's a person who was an officer or a victim or someone who was stopped. I don't know. Miguel is a freedom fighter. I'm sure he has some good information. But it's you experience as a police officer, systematic racism in the police.
Yes, sir.
Firsthand. So talk about that. What that was for you as an officer, because I mean, oftentimes, and it's just being real. Anybody who's out there watching this, who is one of my white friends or one of my white brothers and sisters, period. There's this thinking that it really ain't that bad. People making it up, or is that person was wrong and they should have just been compliant. That might have been true that the person should have been compliant. I mean, my wife said plain as day. Her and I both agree that Jacob Blake should not have been walking away from the police officers. He should not have been walking away from it, but he should have been rustled to the ground by 4 police officers who were there, as opposed to being shot 7 times in the back. You got 4 grown men that could have prevented this man from doing anything, but they didn't do that. So my question is, let's talk about systematic racism, which you actually have firsthand experience with, and actually almost lost your livelihood and your freedom.
Yes, sir. I make it as quick as I can, man. Once again, I went back to my neighborhood where I grew up to patrol. So down there, black and white officers didn't have a problem because it was us against the world. And that's how we saw it. When the officer said he needed backup, everybody on the platoon went, because when we get there, we probably were going to be fighting the whole block. That's just how it was. But I transferred to another district, the 7th district, which you would call white picket fences, I guess, that type of community.
Okay.
And when I got there, I didn't know about an incident that happened to another black officer that we know from playing the intramural sports with. We had saw them, they said they were going on a call. And then we actually need backup. They said, no, we don't need it. We get maybe 2 minutes down the road, they're kicking in for backup. And we know where they were going because they had just told us where they were going. As we're going, I'm noticing that the radio is clicking out and nobody can transmit, and the officers couldn't transmit. So we get there, it's a big fight. We get control of the scene. And when it's over with, the dispatcher finally gets the air clear, and I tell us everything was okay, that, we had the scene under control. When I'm leaving to clear to go on the next call, I call in my call and say I'm clear. Once I said I'm clear, my radio, somebody clicks on the radio on the police channel. Now, mind you, this is the police channel. And they say nigga, 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 nigga over the police channel.
Wow.
So the police signal for repeat the last transmission is 10-9. So I'm like, 10-9? 10-9?
Right.
Well, I know I didn't hear what I just heard, and they repeated it again. Well, we began to talk to people. Hey, man, y'all heard that on the radio? So look, man, they don't back this guy up because he witnessed them beat a guy to the rupture of his spleen, and he stopped him. And he told them, hey, look, don't put me in this report, but y'all not going to beat this man. So they actually wrote the report up and had him in the report as being an active participant. So he testified at the complaint hearing, the investigation of what all of those white officers did. So now they were literally trying to set him up to get hurt or get killed when he was at work.
You're saying that you went on a call because you knew that this person was in some type of danger. You happened to know where he was going, but there was some stuff we've seen in movies before, like Serpico and other movies where, as a matter of fact, Serpico is a perfect movie for that, which is an old school Al Pacino movie from the 70s about dirty police officers. But those officers, which you were on the call in your unit, they basically fell back and was willing to let this person be injured because he testified truthfully about or reported somebody else.
Yeah, he testified when the complaint went in. Yes, sir. And they literally did not care. Nobody came to that scene but my partner and I. Nobody else showed up. And it was because it was so many of them and very few of us that even a handful of blacks were afraid to cross that line. You know, they didn't want to be left out with no protection or any backup. But when we got to the station the next day, we worked a 3 to 11 shift. When we got to the station, 3 to 11, when we go in, the entire night watch, the 11 to 7 shift is there. The captain's there, the lieutenant's there, the commander, everybody's there, and there's majority white males. And when we walk in, as soon as I step in the door, my partner's right behind me. I stop. I said, man, something's not right. Look around.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said that, and I told him, I said, watch your back, watch your six. So as I'm walking up, one of the white officers walk up to me, puts his hand behind his back, sticks his face out to me, and he tells me somebody broke my headlight last night. And I think this skunk monkey nigga blankety blank is the one who did it. In front of the captain, in front of everybody. But he was trying to set me up to hit him so they could come after us and I could be arrested for battering on him. I
a skunk monkey nigga in front of the
blankety, I can't say the rest of it, but yeah, blankety blank on top of that, yeah.
Wow.
In front of the captain, everybody. Now the whole thing is set up because they don't. Half of these boys in there don't come to work till 11 o'clock that night, but they're there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
wow.
So immediately what I did, I had a Velcro gun belt. I slowly took it off and I let my gun belt fall to the floor. I said, if you're going to get me, you're not going to shoot me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but if you got a problem, let's take this outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a guy now, a white guy who was one of my good friends now,
Mm-hmm.
he actually came up behind me. He bear hugged me and another one bear hugged my partner from behind. And he whispered in my ear, he said, man, this is a setup. I'm going to pull you out to get you out of here.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that moment, you know, we're gonna fight back. We're not laying down to it. We're not afraid of them or whatever. When it's all said and done, I get transferred out. They left my partner there. They separated us. Left my partner there. They sent me to SWAT. That's how I went to SWAT. And for the next few months, I go to SWAT. I'm put in a car with a white guy that got a Confederate flag on the back of the police car window.
Mm.
It's an unmarked car. But they're testing me now because when I get transferred out, I get transferred out with the title that I'm a racist. And that's the reason why they had to transfer me out.
So and clearly this is something that was a full-fledged plan. A well thought out plan. They were going to come in together. They all met. They planned on provoking you, hoping that you act out. So then they would have the opportunity and a good excuse to respond to you violently, even to injure you. And who knows what happened.
And you understand why I dropped my gun, because I was not going to allow them to say I went for my gun. That's why I dropped my gun belt.
Again, and at this time, you're policing in one of the New Orleans parishes, correct?
Yeah, in the 7th district, which is upscale area at that time, totally opposite from where I come from. So they just go ahead.
But I think it's hard for a lot of people, a lot of good people who are of other colors, to really accept that type of strategic, deliberate corruption goes on, and it's hard for them to wrap their mind around it.
And this was in 1988 when this happened. This is in 1988. Now, and a lot of people can't wrap their mind because they think like, man, you only see that in Hollywood. No, it's real. It's reality. So now I'm transferred. I'm the one get labeled as a racist. So, you know, I'm now fighting back. I'm not going to be quiet in the department. We have a hearing. They set it up where we didn't get our subpoena. They wanted to suspend us for not responding to a subpoena that we never got. We go to the hearing. He sits in there. We got a 5-person board, a captain, a black lieutenant, a white sergeant, and 2 black officers. It's the hearing board. The captain leaves and make the black lieutenant the chairperson of the board. So now the vote, whatever it's going to be 2 whites to 1 black. So it was even fixed at the hearing. And, you know, he offered his hand out, and I apologize, I'm under stress. And when it was all said and done, they found him sustained for what he said to me, but also found us sustained because we said, come outside and let's settle this. But we didn't start it. So we got written up as well. Years passed now, I'm in internal affairs. I got this label on me that I'm a racist, I'm radical. I got all of these issues going on. I'm in internal affairs now as a sergeant investigating misconduct. And the major of the internal affairs unit walks in, and I'm on the other side of the cubicle, and he doesn't know it. And the white captain tells him, he said, look, I have a transfer I'd like to do. We have an officer that wants to leave, and I got another officer, a sergeant wants to come in. And he said, who is the sergeant? And he told me, he said, isn't he black? He said, yeah. He said, no, I'm not bringing him in. Not that I want the ones I have here. And I heard him.
Wow.
So I stood up and I asked him, I said, can you repeat what you just said? He walked away from me.
Wow.
He went into his office. So I followed him to the office, knocked on his door, and he politely told me, he said, you got 3 stars and I have 2 oak leaves, and I don't have to talk to you. Get out my office.
Wow. Wow.
So I went to the superintendent, who was his direct boss, and I filed a complaint with the superintendent. I get promoted to lieutenant. I go back to SWAT. The first complaint that went in on me, back on them by 2 officers I tried to help, but they got kicked out of the unit for challenging me to a fight in training. One of the guys, so the deputy superintendent transferred him out. They went to file a complaint on me when I went out of town. And when I come back, they tell me, man, you need to get a lawyer. I say, why? They said, these 2 boys filed a complaint, not knowing that the complaint they filed was going to the same major I had just testified against in a hearing about his racial statements.
Wow.
So they took the investigation, and which should have been completely unfounded because all the evidence was there. They found it sustained and had me indicted, and I was facing 20 years in prison for malfeasance in office. Went to court 24 times before I was found not guilty. Then they tried to get me demoted. They tried to get me fired. They couldn't do that. They tried to get me demoted. They couldn't do that.
So the question is, if they would do that to you, a black man who is a police officer, I guess the question, the mindset is imagine what they would do to somebody who's not a police officer, a person who they view as less than them, a person who they view as a criminal. And I think what type of thinking is that just racism, being raised as a racist, or being your mind shaped and we rewired because of what you see on the street? Or is that some type of callousness that is a part of overall police culture? Because I think that's what a lot of people think, and which is dangerous because people walk around like all cops are dirty, all cops on some level are corrupt or trying to get me because I'm black. And so what type of thinking goes into that, and how is that shaped?
Well, that's what I was saying from the beginning. The great majority of the officers, black and white, are not like that. They're really not. Think about it, man. You take on this job to put your life on the line every single day for people you don't even know.
That's right.
People you don't even know.
That's right.
You're going to fight. You're fighting a war in many cases that you'll never see the end of that war. Talking about the drug war. So these are not people that are just hating blacks or just people. But do you have that element inside of it? You have it in every organization. You even have it in the church. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have it in every organization.
Yes, sir.
Do I believe that if those who are like that, who are actually in the Department of Races, will utilize the badge and the authority to do what they want to do to people? Yeah, I've seen some cases where they did. I worked in internal affairs. Mm-hmm. I've seen some things that we was like, man, no way in the world this should happen, and we need to make sure that we get this guy off the department. So, we work to get those people off. So, yeah, there is a culture in there, but it's not the overall culture.
So
that's the answer to your question. Right. It is. And it exists in just about every department. It does.
How important is leadership in that? Because you were a deputy police chief. So how important is leadership in that to remove that, to somehow extract that from that station?
Well, that's what it takes. You remember, I was a sergeant, then I became a lieutenant, then a captain, major, and a chief. Well, when I was a sergeant, remember, I was already labeled. We had what we call the five. That's what we call ourselves. There were 5 of us. It was 5 blacks that we came together, and we all had experienced some type of racial incident in the department. We said the only way we're going to change this is that we got to be in charge. So as sergeants, I was the youngest African-American sergeant promoted at that time, and I became the youngest African-American lieutenant promoted at that time. When it was taking most officers 14 years to make lieutenant, I made it in 5.5.
Wow.
Now imagine me not being silent. They call me radical because I wouldn't lay down. Right. And now I got lieutenant boys, but I'm only 27 years old.
Wow.
And I got lieutenant boys, and I'm not scared of you.
Wow.
So now, you know, before he becomes captain and have more authority, we got to get rid of him. Well, the 5 of us that I was telling you about, the sergeants, we took the lieutenant's exam and we finished on the list 1, 3. I was number 5. The other 2 was 7 and 8 out of 114. We finished in the top 8, all 5 of us.
Wow.
Out of the 5, 1 got fired, 2 went under investigations, where 1 was demoted, 1 was held up promotion from captain. I went to jail, and only 1 of us went through with no problems.
Wow. That's crazy.
So when it was all said and done, the one that went through with no problems, he became the superintendent of police. And my other good buddy, the one that went through the investigation, that was in internal affairs with me, that went through the same stuff, he became the assistant superintendent of police. And when I got promoted to captain, the other guy was fired. The other guy was captain, got demoted back down to lieutenant, had to fight to go back to captain. But the first one became superintendent. The second one became superintendent. And when he became superintendent, I became deputy superintendent under him. And the 4th guy, the one that did not get fired, the one that's still there, he's still there now, and he's a captain under the new superintendent. So once we got there, I had the academy under me. So now I'm in charge of training. So now I make sure that there's diversity training, sensitivity training. We put an in-service program in place that every officer has to go back and spend 1 week in recertification, retraining every year, specifically covering street survival, use of force, diversity training, and sensitivity training inside the department as well as outside the department. Those are things that we were able to put in place because we were now in charge. We had the authority to do it.
I think one thing this conversation is helping me with is to be more sensitive to police officers, no matter what color they are, because even if you are, no matter what color you are, if you're dealing with systemic racism or if you're just dealing with the whole process of trying to be promoted and move along in the department, and then you have to deal with whatever isms that you have to problem, whether that's racism, ageism, sexism, whatever, and you still got to try to go out there and do your job and get back home safely. You still got to, make sure that you don't get your head taken off by somebody who is a criminal, somebody who is a killer, who is a hardened person who is trying to be non-compliant and violent. But then on top of that, you have all the issues that you have to deal with on the professional side. And I think a lot of times people who just looking at it, from a distance, who don't have a personal connection with it, I think we forget that. My brother-in-law is a police officer. So I understand, or was a police officer, he's retired now, but I understand what that process was, and because he's family. But I think a lot of people, they don't have that insight. And I think when you take that into consideration, like Miguel Lloyd here said, he said his father was a police officer. That's what he was talking about, Earl B. Lloyd. His father was a police officer. It gives him a different perspective, and I think that's key. But in your opinion, please, anybody, hit us up with your comments, your questions, your thoughts. I would love to hear what you're thinking from this conversation.
Before we do that, I'd like to add something. So you were talking about all of these other issues, but and this is for those good police officers that I'm talking about. We still got to talk about the fact that they got family problems at home. They got financial problems. They got other issues that are happening away from the job that they got to suppress those things to do this job. And then imagine this. I worked a 3 to 11 shift as a patrolman in the most violent district in the city. I handle 25 to 30 calls a day.
Oh.
A day. So imagine when I get a call at 10 o'clock and I just left a call where a kid just got run over by a car and got killed. And my next call is that I'm going to a house because the father didn't abuse the child. You see that spectrum? Ooh. Here it is. I just left a kid that got killed, and I'm coming to one. You got a kid and you abuse your child.
Right.
I have a responsibility that I have to suppress all of those emotions and still treat you fairly. Like I never met you before, and like that last call never happened. And literally, like they say in football, you got to forget the last play. In many cases, man, these officers got to forget the last call, and they can't always do that. So that's why we have to de-escalate when we deal with them. And
what you're saying is so key, because when you think about this here, Pastor, I mean, if you're a police officer and you have an off night, you have an off day, it's way different than when I have an off night. I'm a comedian. I miss a joke or something, I'm not on my game that night. Somebody didn't laugh. But when a police officer has an off night, he could get killed. He could hurt somebody else because his judgment was off. And that's the tough stuff. That's the tough stuff that we got to be considerate of. Miguel Lloyd said, please ask Pastor Lawrence what he thinks about these police officers and their relationship with the armed militia groups. So I guess you're talking about the different cases all over the country where you have these, whether that be white nationalists or whatever group that is, even on the left side, where people are connected with these different groups. What's your thoughts on that? Any thoughts on that, Pastor Lawrence?
Actually, man, the truth be told, man, if there's somebody that's a police officer that is, if I understand the question, the relationship that they're siding with these groups, like we saw down there in Kenosha, or where that was in Wisconsin, where they were throwing water to these guys, that crossed the line. There's no way that's supposed to happen because, one, it was a curfew. They were in violation of the curfew. They should have been dealt with simply because they broke the law. And just because they appear to be on your side don't mean you embrace them and bring them in, because now you are actually aiding and abiding with them breaking the law. So now that if that's what they're talking about specifically, how they're embracing them when they come into cities or whatever, it should not be happening at all.
Miguel brings up a good point, and I want to ask you politically, as an officer, not just an officer, but a deputy police chief when you retire, and you look at what's happening politically. I know you are active in your parish and your state politically. You participate in these different groups, conversation, town halls, and what have you. What do you think the current political climate? Is that positively affecting police in any way, or is it having an extreme negative effect?
I don't know if we would call it an extreme negative effect, but only those with that mindset embrace it. Only those with that mindset. The other people, they were like, "No, you don't need to be here. We don't want you here. You're causing us more problems," type thing. So a lot of the police officers politically, I do have the ability because, like I told you, I'm uniquely qualified. When I go sit down and talk with the police chief or the sheriff, they know that they can't just tell me anything on the other side of the table because I know the system.
Right.
So I've been very fortunate. What we did, and what I'm telling a lot of pastors to do, is that stop being reactive to the police and become a partner with the police. You see, we are a partner with the police. I've actually hired permanently on the detail the public relations officer to do the head our uniform security team at our church.
Wow.
So I could go to him at any time, call him anytime. Say, look, I got a concern about this. He brings it directly to the superintendent. And then the superintendent makes sure that everything is held. And that's what we have to do. We got to stop reacting and become proactive. But one of the things we never pay attention to that is strategic advantage for us is to become a partner with the police. And that's the reason why I told you I had 5 incidents in my district when I was commander where we had to use deadly force and shoot people and never had a protest, because every month I had 33 homeowner association groups that were in my district. Every month I met with them and I addressed every one of their concerns. So when the incidents happen, and even if somebody wanted to raise up, the people in the neighborhood were like, no, we know this captain. That's not their attitude. That's not what they do. If they did this, they had no choice. And the community kept it peaceful for us.
Right.
So we got to learn how to partner with the police as well.
Yeah.
Especially in Black communities, we really need to learn how to do that.
Pastor Lewis Tucker said we have to continue to pray for law enforcement just as we do leadership. That's real and that's key. And I think that's why I think one of the most dangerous things that's happening now is when the president says certain things. Like when he said, if that whole thing, he's so casually said this at this gathering of police. I forgot, it was like a police officers gathering. He said that the whole thing where you hold their head down, make sure they don't bump their heads when they get in the car. Like stop that. No, let them bump their heads. I'm like, what it does is and people, particularly people of color, it hardens their heart towards the officers, and slowly by surely, you kind of start chipping away, and even a person who may have empathy for police, that type of stuff can cause a person to start actually being fearful or to despise police officers, and that's dangerous. That's why it's so key. Like you said, pray for leadership, pray for the police officers. Melvin Wilson said, "What steps can we as a Black community do to partner with local enforcement?" Great question, Melvin. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, sir. You remember I told you when I was a lieutenant, I was a commander of the public housing units.
Yes, sir.
And we put our officers in the unit, in the public housing projects. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we walked the beat and we got to know people on a first name basis, and we treated people with respect. And in return, the community will begin to do things for the police. One of the things that you could do to partner with your local precinct, wherever you live, have your community do a first responder appreciation thing, maybe once a month, where you cook lunch rather than cooking just for yourself. Cook lunch and say, hey, look, stop by. Maybe we want to do this, get to know people, because when you get to know them on a first name basis, they get to know you. When they come out, that's the essence of community policing. When they come out and they know you, they're on the same beat every day. So, just inviting them to come in, going up by the station, say, hey, look, we just want to bring these roses and put them on the station, a thank you note. Hey, look, we're in the community. Is there anything you need us to do? Be proactive. And when you're proactive, because remember, they're taught that there are only two types of people in the world. They're taught this on the street. There's not in the academy, but this is what they call being a real police. That there are only two types of people in the world, police and knuckleheads.
Wow.
There's us against them. But when you go in and you embrace them, they stop seeing you as the enemy and begin to see you as a friend and as a partner. So be proactive to go do things with them, invite them to come out. Like down here, people do crawfish balls and balls, and invite them to come get crawfish. Or they go and say, hey, look, this community, we want to come in and we just want to do a barbecue for all the officers today. And we paying for the food. We got everything. The officers will come to work to get lunch. So they don't have to be on the street to eat lunch. And they embrace just those kind of things. You do those things and it'd be great.
And something like that can save somebody's life. Something like that can soften somebody's heart and allow them to see another side of somebody who they may see as, a criminal element. Recognize that, this is a young brother who is trying to live his life the same way my son or me. I'm trying to live my life. And people, and somebody who might feel like, why I gotta do all that? I mean, they work for me. Yeah, you need to be real careful with that attitude, because if that's your attitude, it's going to cause distance between you and the police and the community. And what Pastor Lawrence is talking about it's talking about bringing folks closer, creating a community environment, being able to commingle. And being able to work with each other in case something happened. I saw this interesting video. I don't know if you saw it, where there was this white police officer, and he was in a grocery store tussling with a big old white guy. Like this guy, the police officer had some weight on him too. He wasn't no little guy, but this guy who he was tussling with, like he might have been like 6'5", 6'6", like easy 350. and they were on the ground tussling. Now, the grocery store was pretty crowded. It was two interesting things about that video. Number one, the most obvious and glaring thing that jumped out to anybody who watched it was that this white police officer was tussling with a white guy for 5 minutes. Where this guy was clearly being resisted. Clearly, at some point, it looked like he was either going for his taser or trying to grab at him. And this police officer was tussling for a long time. But he never shot him, right? But what was also interesting was that people stood around and watched him. And it finally got to the end where one of the employees kind of timidly walked. People like somebody was like, help him. And I think I lost Pastor Lawrence. People were like, help him, do something, help him. And finally, that employee stepped on the guy's hand. And the employee was a big guy, but all he did was step on his hand, like held his hand down while the police officer finally was able to handcuff this guy. But I don't know if have you seen that video? Pastor Lawrence, you there? Let me see. Your mic is muted.
No, I am muted it for a second.
Okay.
No, I didn't see that video, but I experienced that.
Really?
Yeah, my when you see my wife, she'll tell you the story, man. We fought the guy for 45 minutes. And that's what I'm talking about. 45 minutes. He built like a wrestler. He didn't have a weapon. We knew we couldn't shoot him, so we had to fight him. And to be honest with you, he won 44 of them. We just won the last minute.
say he won 44.
Yeah, we won the last one. We ended up bringing him to jail. But my wife will tell you about it when you see her again. She actually was on the other side of the street and saw part of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but what you were talking about the community, let me give a perfect example about embracing the community. Mm-hmm. I worked in the poorest and most violent district in the city. Mm-hmm. So when we were in the projects, a lot of those kids didn't have anything.
Right.
So they learned quickly that whenever they were shooting dice, if they called the police was going to come in. And what we would do is we would come in from all four sections of the courtyard to make the guys run. And when they run, we let all the kids pick up the money. Because we don't know what the money's for. We let the kids pick up the money, right?
Right.
I had an incident, and they knew us by name. I had an incident. In fact, I was chasing a guy in the same project with a sawed-off shotgun. I was chasing him, and I lost sight of him. And one of those little kids out there, I was about to go up into the hallway where I thought he was. Huh? And the little girl told me, she said, Officer Weathersby, you don't want to do that. Ooh. I said, is he in there? She said, yeah. So I sat down. The other units went to the backside and came up, and the guy was standing on the second level. They didn't see them coming back, waiting for me to come to the door. That same little girl who we used to let pick up the money whenever he came through there was the same little girl who told me, you don't want to do that.
Wow.
And that's it. That's just a shuttle glimpse of what happens when you partner with the community.
Wow.
Just a shuttle glimpse.
Man, Pastor, you gave some good information tonight, sir. We gonna share this video all over the place. I think it was phenomenal information. Claw, comply, live. What'd you say? Live to what now? Live to tell about it?
Comply, live to tell about it, appeal it, file your complaint, and win it at another day. CLAW, claw. But look, on two things, man, if you could put this out, that I want people to know their rights, because everybody says, I know my rights, and they really don't.
Yes, sir.
There are two cases that everybody needs to look up. Three cases. The first one is Terry versus Ohio. Mm-hmm. That talks about search and seizure and what an officer can do and what are the circumstances he can do that. Mm-hmm. The next one is JL versus Florida, which means that they can't just arbitrarily ride up and jump out and stop you. Even if they have anonymous tip, they have to watch you and see that something goes along with that before they arbitrarily stop you.
Really?
All officers are taught that. So Terry versus Ohio, they can't just stop you and search you unless there's reasonable suspicion that you have committed a crime, is committing a crime, or about to commit a crime, and that you may be armed. That's the only time they can stop you and search you without arresting you.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is Miranda versus Arizona. You don't have to incriminate yourself at all. Okay. You don't have to incriminate yourself. Even if you did something, they can't make you, confess. They can't.
Mm-hmm.
So those three cases, Terry versus Ohio, JL versus Florida,
mm-hmm.
and Miranda versus Arizona. If you have an officer that is just checking you for no reason,
mm-hmm.
stopping you for no reason,
mm-hmm.
and want you to answer questions that will incriminate you for no reason,
mm-hmm.
for no probable cause, you are dealing with a rogue officer. Do not challenge that officer. He knows he's violating your rights because he's been taught the right thing to do. And
is there a way to if somebody is like, particularly the second one, is it a way to say, hey, listen, I don't have to answer your questions? Is there a way to say, you should not be rolling up on me in a respectful and a firm way to say, I don't have to respond to you and do what you're telling me to do, or should you just do it and take the L?
No. Think about it. The law, that's what I said, know your rights. You don't have a right not to answer a question, especially if they have reasonable suspicion. You don't have a right to incriminate yourself. That's your right.
Okay.
Because a lot of people think I plead the fifth. No, the fifth means you don't have a right to incriminate yourself.
Right.
But if I come up on you and I got a name that somebody's wanted fitting this description, and I come up to you and I say, you have an ID? Nope. Well, what's your name? I know my rights. I ain't got to talk to you. Well, you fit the description. Somebody that called me. This is the reason why I'm here. I didn't arbitrarily show up here. Mm-hmm. So you know what? Get in the car. We're going to go get your fingerprinting, and now we're going to identify you. You could have avoided that simply by answering the question and complying.
Wow.
You see, so my deal is when you know your rights. That's why I want everybody to go read Terry versus Ohio to see how that works. Read GL versus Florida. Read Miranda versus Arizona. Mm-hmm. So when you're dealing with somebody and they come on you and you already know that information and you see that it's being violated,
yes, sir.
That is the number one person that you want to de-escalate. And I give you this last statement for the night. Here's what every officer is taught in every police academy. They are taught to de-escalate themselves. Mm-hmm. And here's what it says. When it is consistent with protecting the safety of an officer, the subject or the public, officers shall means without option, shall use de-escalation techniques to avoid or reduce the need of the use of force or as an alternative to higher levels of force. Every police officer is taught that in the academy.
Wow.
So if they know that and they're taught that in the academy, if you don't escalate it, then if they're doing their job right, they're going to make you calm. They're going to put you in a position where you're not going to feel threatened. But if you escalate, the moment you go loud, the moment you become combative, the moment you become forcefully questioning them, remember, you move from compliant to passive to active to aggressive. Unfortunately, they bypass a lot of those steps and they're saying that you are aggravated on resistance, and that's why they use a force. Every one of them in these cases happened. I thought he was going for a weapon.
Wow.
So de-escalate it, and they won't be able to go for a weapon.
He is Pastor Lawrence Weathersby. He's the pastor of Living the Word Church International in Slidell, Louisiana. His lovely wife is Pastor Chiquita, and she has a book called No More Change, Freedom from Rejection and Depression, God's Way. Tell us about the book and where is it available now?
Well, you can go on our website, livingthewordinternational.org, and you could go there, or you could just put her name in, ChiquitaWeathersby.com. What the book is about, man, is actually a testament of her life, man. Everything she's been through, as it relates to dealing with rejection most of her life, dealing with even a serious case of depression, man. And she's got a lot in there where she actually thought about ending it all. But you know, man, she trusted his freedom from, you know, rejection and depression God's way, man. She just got into the word, just stayed in the word, man, and allowed God to heal her and deliver her. And now, man, she's speaking all over, preaching all over, man. You know, just the Lord just using her mightily, man, doing a great job at the church, leading all the women and ministries of health. And man, she's in a great, you know, she's really, really good, man. The Lord has blessed her. So she's come beyond it. I would suggest it's not just a women's book. It is a men and women's book. Not that expensive. It's $21.75. That's including the shipping. Price on it. But you can go to ltwi.org and click on her picture, or you can go to ChiquitaWeathersby.com and you can order the book from her website as well.
Wow, man. No more change. No more change. Freedom from rejection and depression, God's way. That's available right now. That's a good book. I mean, last night I had Monique on, my friend and fellow comedian, and had over 5,000 people watching last night while we talked live about some of the issues that she's dealt with and how many people deal with it, and how that is all tied into the industry side, the business side. So it's a great example of a book that people can read and get some help, get some deliverance. And folks, if there's some materials out there to help you, definitely get on it and let it bless your life. Well, sir, I thank you for your time. Again, all this conversation right here, I pray it blesses somebody. I pray that somebody sees this who can share it with somebody else or a group of other people, or somebody sees this and it gives them some wisdom and information, particularly young people, wisdom and information about how to interact with police officers, whether you black or white, and how to make sure you go home, as opposed to getting into a tussling match, going back and forth with somebody who in many ways got the upper hand on you already. And you need to be very careful and understand, again, it's about going home. It's about not getting shot. It's about not getting into a tussling match. It's about not getting an arrest, or unnecessarily arrest on your record when it can be avoided. So, sir,
keep the revelation, brother. They know your rights. They've been trained to know your rights. They've been trained how to deal with you without violating them. So if they are violating them, they know they are violating them. Comply, live to talk about it, appeal it, and win it at a later day. Just walk away from it and deal with it later.
That's good. Claude, Pastor, thank you, sir, my friend. I appreciate it.
Love you, Pastor T. Love you, Pastor Tucker. Love you, brother Akintunde. You're blessing. You are blessing the people too, man. God bless you, bro. Peace.
Love you too, sir. Tell Pastor Keith I say hello, please. I look forward to seeing y'all real soon.
I will, man. You have a good night.
Too. Man, I pray that bless y'all. I just want to have a conversation with Pastor Weathersby. I thought it was good information, and just the information about CLAW, the acronym, and comply, live to tell about it. To I forgot the A that fast. What was the A? appeal, and then walk away and deal with it later. And then, of course, just to know what proper police training is. If somebody is doing something, and even somebody is being non-compliant, there's several steps that people are supposed to go through before they get to the point where they pull their weapon out, and definitely before they shoot somebody. So I think it's good information, and I pray it bless y'all. Tomorrow night, I got my friends. This will be a great show. I got my friends Shanita Morris, aka Chocolate, and my sister, my friend Trey Taylor, radio personality, Facebook Live host, and I have attorney John Whittleton. The three of them and myself are going to be discussing dating 50 plus. Okay. This should be interesting. Because Shanita and Trey, they're gonna talk, they're gonna speak their mind. If Attorney Whittleton is watching this, probably should have had him on tonight, because he probably been good to have this conversation right here. But if tomorrow night, sir, be ready. And you know what? I'm glad now that I think about it. I'm glad that it is Attorney John Whittleton who's going to be having this conversation. He's a single man and he's 50 plus. Okay. Shanita Morris, Trey Taylor, they're both in their 50s and they're both single. So there's a difference than a person that's dating 30, 35, and a person who's dating 40, 45, and a person that's dating 50. It is a difference. And we're going to talk about what some of those differences are and some of the stuff that kind of surprised me that's still going on. I thought when you get to a certain age, certain things stop happening. But apparently, from what some of the ladies are telling me, some of that stuff still goes on, even with older brothers. So, man, get ready for that. Please let folks know that's tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Tonight we're on later, of course, because Married for Real was on before I came on. Great job again, always, to LaTroy and Christina for really helping folks with their relationships. Man, go back and watch all the videos this week. It's been a great week, eye-opening week of just the power of live video, the power of us utilizing these ministry platforms to do some creative distribution of the gospel in a totally unique way. Think about this. LaTroy and Christina are sitting and ministering live to people via the internet from their television set. They are ministers. They're preachers and teachers of the gospel. And they're taking the word of God and distributing it in a very creative and unique way. Think about this right here. Everything that we're doing right here on this show, on this set, is all word-based. It's faith-based. Everything is not quoting the scripture, even in comedy. Everything is not something that we're saying, hey, this is a message coming at you. No, it's not always like that. Sometimes it is. And it, just for the record, this show right here, sometimes we'll be serious, sometimes we'll be silly, sometimes we'll cut straight down the middle, sometimes we'll be political, sometimes we'll be totally spiritual. Let me tell you something. I'm living my full truth on this show. That's why I love the fact that there's no producer, there's no network, or there's no distributor telling me I got to have a joke every few minutes or telling me I can't be funny even on this, what may be a serious topic, because it's truth. And the truth of the matter is, whether you're a comedian, whether you're a chef, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a football player, whether you're a teacher, there's different nuances about your life. And I think you should be able to live your full life. And that's what we endeavor to do here. Again, tomorrow night, Shanita Morris, aka Chocolate, Trey Taylor, and attorney John Whittleton, dating 50 plus is the topic. Friday night for my Friday check-in, that's an earlier show, I have comedian Rod Allison and gospel music sensation Kalante Gavin. That should be interesting. Kalante has a brand new single that drops on Friday. He's recording, has a live recording that I'm hosting in Goose Creek, South Carolina on Saturday. And Rod Allison, aka Rod of God, is doing a live comedy special himself from his house this Sunday night, and we'll be talking about all that. So listen, we having fun here. Let everybody know about Clap TV. Please let everybody know about the Akintunde show. The Clap TV hashtag is check out Clap TV. Check out Clap TV. Let folks know about Clap TV, the brand new digital platform for urban faith family content. And then let everybody know about the Akintunde show. Hashtag the Akintunde show. Knows how to spell. So look up on the screen. I think it's right. No, over there. Look over here. Look right there. Right there. Point. There we go. Look there. That's how you spell it. I had a ball with you. Oh, right there. It's right there. Right there all the time. I'm pointing up there. I could just point it right there. Hey, family, I enjoyed myself. I pray that y'all did. I had a ball with y'all. Thank you to everybody who checked in. My mother in love. Thank you for hanging out with us and watching the entire show. You know, that's a blessing right there when you got this type of relationship and support from your mother-in-law. Thank you, ma'am. Pastor Lewis Tucker, he's telling Pastor Weathersby he loved them. That's awesome. And again, shout out to Miguel Lloyd, Melvin Woodson, and everybody who hung out with us today. We appreciate y'all. Until next time.